Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Carrow Road, the scene of which Norwich City have just drawn 1-1 here with Bristol City, ending obviously that 8-game winning run that they've built here. Bristol City and Liam Manning becoming the first side and the first coach to leave Norfolk with a point since Russell Martin and Southampton on New Year's Day. So impressive, obviously, an incredibly impressive run. But today was anything but impressive from a Norwich City perspective. They were off colour. They were not on it. And to be honest, I think if that game would have been played prior to this run of form that they've had at Carrow Road in recent weeks, they would have lost it and probably owe a huge debt of gratitude to Angus Gunn for not losing it as well. Just not at it today. And I think it's one I think you could really go deep into and one that you could analyse, I think, with real harshness. But I think the reality is it's a 46-game season. You have days and you have moments. You have 90 minutes where things just don't click. You don't find your rhythm. You don't perform maybe as well as you would like. And there's just a general sort of off-colour feeling to the whole thing. And that was the case today. I felt there was a little bit of a kind of after the Lord Mayor's show, given last time we were at Carrow Road with that Ipswich game, the energy, the enthusiasm, the decibel levels in this place, it was bouncing on its foundations really. Today was flat on and off the pitch. I felt there wasn't really maybe the atmosphere, and these are always chicken and egg type things. I didn't think the performance generated the atmosphere, and the atmosphere didn't really generate the performance. I thought they played a side who looked excellently coached. I think Bristol City have been the best team that I've seen come here for a while, and Norwich have had some really good teams in recent months come here, some not so good teams as well, and we'll dig into the whys and why nots of that. But look, the final picture is a 1-1 draw, and obviously a result that hasn't proven to be in the end, but it could have made things a little bit dicey in the final couple of games. But as such, Hull have failed to beat Watford, and so the picture with West Brom losing at Leicester as well hasn't really changed at all from beneath Norwich City, but obviously above Norwich. They could have taken fifth here today with a victory, and they haven't quite been able to do that. So, that's kind of the headlines, I guess. Let's go through the game. Norwich City unchanged as expected. They found rhythm. They found a nice consistency with the squad that they've been playing of late. John Rowe returns obviously to the bench as he did last week. Christian Fashnak was back after the birth of his baby daughter, and Jakob Sørensen back from injury as well. Kenneth Bowe was missing, got a slight hip injury from what I understand. I think it's just more of a tightness more than anything else. Not expecting that to be season ending or anything along those lines. But he was missing today. But Norwich's bench and team more generally looking a little bit healthier, which is, a lot of people speak about timing and momentum and all of those things. The fact that they're in that position now where they're welcoming players back, and they've got real support behind some of those options that they've got, frontline options who have played a lot of minutes and been heavily overloaded. Is incredibly is a relief, I'm sure, for David Wagner, but it's incredibly encouraging for what lies ahead. Let's delve into the game then, because I thought Bristol City set up and really gave Norwich City problems to think about. I thought they pressed they set up really in sort of a 3-4-3, but the front three went and pressed so high. They put a pretty high block on Norwich. It's not too dissimilar to what some teams have done, and some teams who have had joy against Norwich and really tried to limit them sort of at source. There are two ways that you do it. You either go and protect the space that Norwich City are going to attack and try and get into, or you be brave and you go toe for toe and you leave a little bit of space in behind. But if you can get your press right and organised and structured and you're well coached, there are opportunities to limit Norwich City getting out. And if they struggle to get out, and I remember saying 5 minutes in, turning to my colleagues and saying that Norwich were really struggling to play through Bristol City, even at those early stages. And that was the theme throughout the afternoon, I felt. They just never quite felt like they were in control of this game to the extent that they have been in recent weeks. They weren't able to progress the ball as well as they have done, and that's largely because of how Bristol City sort of sat on them in the press that they deployed. And then equally, I felt when Bristol City did have the ball and Norwich were trying to apply step-up pressure when they were trying to go and meet them, they didn't quite have the energy or the enthusiasm or the sort of the structure maybe to go and do that, combined with Bristol City being very comfortable in possession and being able to bypass that, create overloads pretty nicely and work their way out of it to the other side of the pitch. And that's why in the first half of the game it became quite transitional, and Bristol City opportunities came transitionally because they were able to bypass the press, but largely it was Norwich City just not quite on it in those central areas. And that's where you had Williams, you had Knight, you had Scott Twine, going and applying sufficient pressure to allow them to win the ball in high areas, and that created turnovers and space and opportunities. And you look at actually the best opportunity, probably of the game really, but definitely of the first half, was Kenny McLean being dispossessed by Twine, I think it was, who sort of lovely ball in behind for Sykes. He rounds on, tries a nonchalant chip over the goalkeeper, Angus Gunn, and just gets it all wrong and drops it wide. He could have squared it, and I don't know who the lad was. I think it might have been Conway, would have had a tap in, but he opted not to do that, and Norwich survived. Minutes later, Scott Twine hit the bar with a free kick, which I think was deflected. Josh Sargent had hit the post for Norwich early on, but Norwich were really struggling to engineer any sort of clear-cut opportunities, and barring really John Rowe testing Max O'Leary. I'm trying to think of other clear-cut. Borja Sainz had one that was shot that O'Leary saved in the first half. They haven't really tested him to the levels that we've come to expect here, and it all just fed into what I felt was just a really under-par, off-colour display in terms of with the ball, without the ball. They just weren't on it, they just weren't at it. And Bristol City, I think, and Liam Manning was when he came into the Carrow press room, probably ruining missed opportunities. I need to watch it back, but they did have the ball in the back of the net late on through was it Wells or Conway? I think it was Conway. He poked the ball in from a free kick. Liam Manning was pretty adamant that wasn't offside. I need to go and watch it back. There's also some sort of talk about the Norwich goal being offside, but it looked perfectly fine to me in real time. So yeah, I mean, Bristol City, just before they scored the goal, were actually building up pressure, and I thought they worked the wide area so nicely, got overloads in key areas, used the half spaces really well to sort of engineer opportunities. And again, I just felt they looked well coached, well structured, and reminded me a lot actually of when Swansea came to Carrow Road last year under Russell Martin, and Norwich lost 3-0 that day. They were down to 10 men, and it was an off-colour performance. We're not quite, Norwich weren't quite at those bad levels today, but they just got completely outplayed. And there were periods in that game where Norwich were second best, and they were second best, I felt, for the majority of the contest. The goal comes from a really well-worked move. I think Conway gets played in just down the left-hand side of the penalty area, cuts the ball back, and there's Haydu Roberts, centre-back, but sweeping finish into the bottom far corner. An excellent finish to put Bristol City in the lead that they deserve, to be brutally honest. And then it was going to be about response from this place, response from Norwich, and actually it felt a little bit like the kind of shockwave that this place needed, and the players needed as well, because this group has shown they're resilient. It has shown they've been able to withstand kind of moments of adversity recently, and this is why I said I think if you'd have put this game 3 months ago in the conditions and in the circumstances that it took place today, I think there is an argument that Norwich City would have lost it. But they responded quickly within 2 minutes. In fact, it's a lovely ball from Gabriel Sarah through. Josh Sargent does so well to spin past Rob Dickey, who's flailing, trying to get anything on the ball, and Sargent unselfishly squares it to Borja Sainz, who then has to tap in to make it 1-1. But thereafter, Norwich got themselves in a few dangerous positions. Sam McCallum put a couple of really good crosses in from the left. Borja Sainz put a cross in from the left. John Rowe as well. But they just weren't able to find that kind of moment. And actually, I felt when they took Marcelino Nunez out of it for the last 35 minutes, and yes, they scored immediately after that substitution was made pretty much, but I just felt they lost a little bit of control on the ball. The game opened up, and Norwich struggled then to really progress the ball in a fashion that was of a quality nature. And when you've got Rowe on the pitch and Sainz on the pitch and Sargent on the pitch, you have transitional opportunities if you get penned in, but they just weren't able to clear their lines or get sort of spells of possession that would relieve them of that. And I think that for me is the difference between what Marcelino Nunez has been able to do in the last few months and maybe what he's failed to do at any point in his Norwich City career, because he gives them that control, he gives them that quality on the ball, even if I didn't necessarily feel this was his best game, but he's so important in terms of that control and wresting it. And the game felt like if any team was going to win it, it was going to be Bristol City. Norwich had to rely on Angus Gunn, who made an unbelievable double save, really. The first a cross in from the right-hand side. Conway's tried to get something on it, hasn't quite been able to make contact. He pushes it out to Scott Twine. He's up quick, he's alert, and gets a solid hand to what, I mean, it is a poor finish, you have to say, but an excellent save to tip that round the post. In the circumstance, I think all of Carrow Road, probably several on the pitch, several in the dugout as well, when that ball fell kindly for Scott Twine, felt it was going to be 2-1 and it was going to be a goal. But that is the quality that Angus Gunn has, and that's why, for me, he's the best goalkeeper at this level. There was an injury time stop from Naki Wells as well, a series of others. There was a save in the first half when Twine got through on the left and it was deflected by Shane Duffy. And to be fair, that's probably something that we've seen more of today than we have at any other point, because how often in these verdicts of late have I said Angus Gunn hasn't been made to work and he hasn't had a lot to worry about. Today he did, and Norwich City probably were carved open as much as they have been in definitely a while. I can't think of the last time off the top of my head, but definitely a while in terms of open play and in terms of an opponent stretching them and manipulating them and creating space. This was the best that any team has done it. And look, I really like Liam Manning. I think he's an excellent coach. You only have to look at what he did at MK Dons in season 1 at Oxford. You have to look at his Bristol City team now, and I think they're showing signs that next season they're going to be a very quality side, like Luke Williams at Swansea, like Russell Martin at Southampton. This kind of breed of young, methodical British coach. He set up a team here today very, very well to cause Norwich City problems, to give them problems to solve. And some of those problems they did solve okay. Some of those problems they didn't really get to grips with over the course of the game. Some of that was self-inflicted, to be honest, as well, for what I talked about. And yeah, it's weird because of the period that they've gone through. They've obviously had a little bit of a rest this week. They just look kind of sapped of energy. They've had a spring in their step when they've gone to chase, and I don't know what you can attribute that to, other than it's just one of those things that happens across a 46-game season. And hey, maybe this is not the worst time in the world to have a performance like that, given everything that's at stake in hopefully the next few weeks. And yeah, the reality is, because of Hull drawing at Watford, because of West Brom losing, as I said, they haven't really lost ground on anybody. They've gained a point on West Brom. They remain 6th on goal difference, and that 6-point cushion to Hull still remains. Coventry have 2 games in hand. Hull have a game in hand. Those two play each other on Tuesday. If that ends as a draw, then it means that Norwich City will need a win against Swansea next weekend to secure their place in the Championship top 6. So that's the reality. The reality is it's not a result that has altered the dynamic to such an extent. It maybe would have been slightly different if Hull were able to edge past Watford this afternoon, but they haven't been able to do that. And thus, with 2 games left, Norwich are in a wonderful position now that, to go and secure the job, to go and finish the job as the lawnmowers pick up pace behind me. So yeah, look, I don't think it's the worst point in the world. If you can't win, don't lose these games. Norwich City haven't done that. But I think it is a reminder that, when people talk about teams being on the beach, Bristol City were anything but that today. They were probably the hardest challenge that Norwich have had here, and now actually taken points off them for a long period of time. So Swansea will be no different. They're in good form. They've won 4-0 today, and they will arrive at Carrow Road with similar ambitions. And sometimes, actually, that can create a freedom, and it can ease players. Their shoulders can drop. They can broaden. They can be really comfortable with playing. And I'd expect a similar experience next week against Swansea, providing obviously Norwich City maybe don't find a higher gear. But the reality is, with 2 games to go, they're in a really good position. And what needs to happen now, and obviously part of it is out of their hands because they're incumbent to whatever happens at the weekend. But if there is an opportunity for Norwich to get this done next week, then that is a hell of an opportunity to take. And as a position to be in, it's a wonderful one, given what we were speaking about in November, and even as late as Watford in February, about some of the frustration inside this place. So yeah, look, an off-colour day for Norwich City for everyone. I think often you can be defined by how you survive these days, and Norwich City have done that. If you can't win, don't lose. They've drawn here today. I think it's fine. I don't think it's the end of the world. I don't think there's a need to overanalyze it or comb through it, with a fine comb or anything like that. I think it's just one to shrug off, to say it's one of those days. It happens in a season. This is Norwich's 50th of the campaign, and to move on pretty swiftly. So from Carrow Road, plenty of stuff, of course, on pinkin.com throughout the week as we build up to Swansea for the penultimate game of the season, of the regular season at least, and obviously Norwich City's final home game of the regular campaign. We obviously hope they've got one more to play in the playoffs as well. Thank you very much for joining me. Enjoy your Saturday evening, enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you again next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.